Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip&Talk. I am so glad you're here. To all our Sip&Talkers out there, I am raising my coffee mug to you right now. How is everyone doing today?
Oh, I've got my tea ready to go. I'm doing great, and honestly, it is fantastic to be back with you all.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Although, I have to start off with a bit of a heavy sigh today because we received this genuinely, extremely anxious letter from one of our listeners.
Oh, no. What happened?
Well, the frustration was just leaping off the page. The very first line of the email was literally, "Help. I am being driven absolutely crazy by Chinese nationalist cyber warriors. Like, how on earth do I communicate with these people?"
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh, but I can guess exactly how this went down. Let me guess. Our listener went online, tried to use actual historical documents, maybe cited some international law, used, basic deductive reasoning.
Right. Tried to have a normal debate.
Exactly. And in return, the other person basically acted like a human tape recorder, just throwing these pre-packaged cookie-cutter slogans right back in their face.
Completely nailed it. That is exactly what happened. Our listener was trying to have this objective discussion, and out of nowhere, the other guy just unleashes the ultimate attacks, shouting slogans like, "Keep the island, not the people," and telling them that Taiwan's economy relies entirely on mainland charity.
Yeah, I've seen that exact script so many times.
Right. And so the listener was second-guessing their own sanity. They were asking us if their logic was just completely flawed or if is it just impossible to have a real conversation there?
Well, we can definitely reassure our listener right off the bat, your logic is not the problem here at all. It's that you're dealing with two people operating in completely different cognitive universes.
Different cognitive universes. I like that.
Yeah, because, when we look at these geopolitical debates, from our perspective, especially sitting here in the American tech scene or watching policy come out of Washington, we just naturally assume a debate is a clash of ideas. Mm-hmm. But in a highly censored environment, repeating a political declaration isn't a debate tactic. It is literally a survival instinct.
Wow, a survival instinct. Okay, that frames it completely differently. It's like if you try to use logic on someone in that survival mode, it's basically like arguing with your air conditioner about what to have for dinner.
That is the perfect analogy.
Right, because the air conditioner doesn't care about your logic. It's just going to keep blowing cold air in your face.
Exactly. You're arguing with an appliance. It only has one program.
So today we are not going to vent, and we are definitely not hurling insults.
Yeah.
Instead, we are going to take the 5 textbook fallacies, these little pink nationalist tropes our listener ran into, and we're going to deconstruct them one by one. Like, we're basically going to debug a piece of bad code.
I love that. Let's get into it. What was the first major bug they encountered?
Okay, so the first major narrative was this historical claim. The troll was insisting, quote, "All Chinese dynasties are China, so attacking Taiwan is purely an internal affair." And they tied that up with, "If you don't admit you're Chinese, give the land back to the mainland."
Oh, wow. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Let's look at the underlying mechanics of that one. Because if you pull on that thread even a tiny bit, the whole thing just unravels completely.
Totally unravels. Where does it start falling apart?
It falls apart because of what historians call anachronism. It's basically a postmodern historical collage. They are taking this 20th century concept of a modern nation state, which, has fixed, legally recognized borders, and they are retroactively forcing it onto ancient dynasties.
Right. But ancient empires didn't exactly have border checkpoints and passports?
Well, no, not at all. Ancient dynasties operated on military frontiers and tributary systems. Their borders were constantly expanding and shrinking depending on, basically who had the bigger army that decade. You cannot equate a shifting ancient military footprint with modern international law.
Let's just playfully push that logic to its natural conclusion for a second. Take the Yuan dynasty, which was led by the Mongols after they conquered China. If we follow this troll's exact logic, that historical conquest dictates modern borders, then couldn't modern Mongolia just claim that conquering all of Eurasia is their internal affair?
Exactly. By their own logic, Ulaanbaatar has a valid legal claim to half the planet.
Which is insane.
It is insane. And even if we put the ancient history aside and just look at the actual documented facts, in 1895, through the Treaty of Shimonoseki, the Qing dynasty permanently ceded the island. It was signed away. And the PRC, which was founded in 1949, has literally never ruled that island for a single day. You can't demand the return of something you never even possessed.
That makes total sense. But what about the second half of that fallacy, the whole bloodline thing? Like, give the land back if you don't admit you're Chinese.
Yeah, so that is a dangerous conflation of ethno-nationalism and civic sovereignty. They're treating DNA like a property deed. But in any modern system, land sovereignty belongs to the civic residents. The people who live there pay taxes and build a society. They aren't just, tenants renting the land from some distant regime based on their bloodline.
Right. I mean, look at us here in the U.S. Most of us speak English and have European ancestry, but nobody is saying we need to hand North America back to the U.K.
Right, exactly. Or look at Singapore. Singapore is majority ethnic Chinese, but nobody in the international community is telling them to just hand their sovereign land over to Beijing.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. So, moving on to the second fallacy. Our listener said when they brought up those historical facts, the troll immediately pivoted to this really dark, aggressive tone.
Let me guess, the economic threats.
Economic and violent threats. They hit them with, keep the island, not the people. If you're disobedient, we'll hit you with economic sanctions and stop our charity.
Wow. We really need to pause and look at the legal reality of what they are casually typing out there. Keep the island, not the people, is literally advocating for fascist ethnic cleansing. Under the Rome Statute, that is a severe war crime.
It's horrifying when you actually say it out loud.
It is, and the irony is they think saying that makes them look strong. But to the rest of the world, repeating a threat of ethnic cleansing just validates why people would resist that tyranny in the first place.
Absolutely. Now, I want to pivot to the tech and economic side of that threat, because that is right in our wheelhouse. Looking at this from our American tech scene perspective, we are deeply involved in this tech war right now. We are looking at our global supply chains constantly. So when these trolls claim that cross-strait trade is just mainland charity, how does that hold up?
It is completely detached from reality. It shows they have zero idea how global manufacturing actually works.
Right, because it's not a charity handout.
Not at all. Over 80% of Taiwan's exports over there are intermediate goods. We are talking about the highest-end semiconductors and ultra-crucial electronic components.
So wait, explain how that works on the ground, like in the factories.
Okay, picture a massive assembly plant in Shenzhen. They're building the latest EVs or smartphones to export to Europe or us here in the States. They physically cannot finish building those products without the chips fabricated across the strait.
So Chinese manufacturing actually desperately needs those chips.
They need them to survive.
Yep.
Without them, their assembly lines would grind to a complete halt. It is a highly integrated, market-driven global division of labor. It is absolutely not some imperial favor or one-way blessing from an emperor.
Okay, so the economic charity argument is completely busted. Which brings us to fallacy number 3, and this is the big one. The listener said the troll pulled out the ultimate appeal to authority.
The UN resolution.
Bingo. They were like, UN Resolution 2758 settled it. Taiwan is part of China. The international community agrees.
This one is fascinating because it is a massive bait and switch. It's essentially a legal trap they've been using for decades.
How so? Like, what does the text actually say?
Well, you have to look at 1971. That resolution was exclusively about one administrative issue. It was about who gets to sit in the designated China seat at the UN. That's it. It just replaced the ROC delegates with the PRC delegates.
Just swapping the representatives?
Yes. And here's the smoking gun that completely destroys their argument. If you read the actual text of UN Resolution 2758, the words Taiwan or Formosa do not appear a single time in the entire document.
Wait, really? Not even once?
Not once. The resolution never took a position on sovereignty, and it absolutely never gave Beijing sovereignty over the 23.5 million people living on the island.
Wow. You know, this explains so much about what we are seeing in Washington right now. This is exactly why our government, along with places like the European Parliament, have been passing these formal statements recently to explicitly clarify this.
Yes, exactly.
We are actively pushing back against Beijing's monopoly on this legal wordplay. Because if we don't, they just keep repeating it until everyone thinks it's true.
Right, and that pushback is so crucial for international law. But, when their legal argument fails, they usually switch to attacking the system itself.
Oh, yeah. That is fallacy number 4, the governance illusion. The listener quoted the troll saying, democracy doesn't put food on the table, authoritarianism is efficient, and democracy is just internal friction.
This is such a classic mix-up of means versus ends.
Unpack that a little.
Well, things like infrastructure, building a bridge, or slapping together a hospital in a few days, those are just the means. The actual end goal of a government should be human dignity and protecting basic rights.
Right.
So when they brag about authoritarian efficiency, they are hiding the terrifying reality of that system, which is the invisible cost of correction.
The invisible cost of correction, that sounds ominous.
It is. Because, yes, they can build things fast, but because there is zero free speech and zero oversight, what happens when the central authority makes a massive mistake?
Like the Great Leap Forward.
Exactly. Or the extreme, prolonged lockdowns we saw recently. When a rigid system makes a mistake, nobody can challenge it. So the cost of correcting that mistake is catastrophic for everyday people. Millions suffer because the system has no brakes.
You know, hearing that really makes me appreciate our system. Like, sure, our democracy is incredibly noisy and sometimes painfully inefficient. We all know how Washington works. It can be super frustrating.
Oh, for sure.
But that friction they are making fun of, that friction is actually a crucial, multi-layered oversight mechanism. The debates, the voting, the pushback, it's what stops the car from just driving off a cliff.
Exactly. It's a feature, not a bug.
So this brings us to the fifth and final piece of the puzzle, the psychology of it all. If we have all these clear facts, the history, the supply chain data, the UN text, why do they just keep reciting the same script?
This is where we get into identity protective cognition.
Oh, I've heard of this. How does it apply here?
Well, in a highly censored environment, an individual's entire self-worth and worldview are completely tied to the state narrative. If they look at your logic and admit that you are right, they aren't just losing an argument. They have to admit that their entire life's worldview is a lie.
That would cause massive cognitive dissonance.
Immense dissonance.
Oh.
So to protect themselves, their brain defaults to the safest strategy. Repeating the official state slogan is basically a low-energy defense mechanism. They haven't been trained in actual logic, like taking evidence, making an inference, and forming a conclusion. They've just been trained to fill in the blanks of a standard answer.
You know, it's hilarious because our listener actually noticed this in real time. They said they tried asking a super specific historical question. They asked, hey, what was the relationship between the 1931 Chinese-Soviet Republic and the central government back then?
Oh, that's a brilliant question.
Right, because it was basically a separatist movement backed by a foreign power. But the listener said because the troll couldn't process the contradiction, they just completely short-circuited and started yelling 5,000 years or you're a separatist. It's like you're asking a math question, and they are literally reciting a patriotic essay.
Yeah, they just panic and pull the ripcord.
So to bring it all back to our anxious listener's original question, is dialogue completely meaningless?
Well, if your goal is to change their mind, then yes, it's pretty meaningless. You really can't wake someone up who is pretending to be asleep. It's just going to exhaust you.
But what if you're not trying to convince them?
That's the key. If you are debating in a public forum, you have to remember that your logic is actually for the third-party observers.
Oh, the people just reading the comments.
Exactly. When you stay calm and show your logical and civil high ground, it lets the silent majority see the stark difference between the two mindsets.
That is such great advice. Protecting your own emotional peace and keeping your logical clarity is far more valuable than trying to win against a script-reading robot online.
It really is.
Now, before we wrap up today, I do want to explicitly state something important. This discussion today is absolutely not criticizing or discriminating against any nation or its people.
Well, of course not.
We are simply taking an objective look at facts and logical fallacies to encourage independent critical thinking, which is literally what this show is all about. And briefly, any numbers or tech sectors we mentioned today are just references, definitely not financial advice.
Yeah, strictly educational.
So, Sip&Talkers, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. The next time someone shouts a slogan at you online, ask yourself, are they actually trying to communicate, or are they just trying to survive their own system?
That is a very powerful question to keep in mind.
Also, what other wild logic have you guys encountered in your daily life? Drop a comment below, and maybe we'll diffuse it in a future show. And hey, if you enjoyed today's chat, make sure you subscribe to the Sip and Talk podcast.
Definitely subscribe.
Oh, and a quick shout out to our old buddy Mickey. You guys have to go check out his YouTube channel, Mickey to Life. He just posted his latest travel vlog, and it is awesome.
Yeah, his videos are always so good.
Go give him some love. All right, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.
Bye, everyone.